Okay, so talking about Criterion D now of your internal assessment. And for this one, this is unique compared to the other Criterion because it's entirely video-based. Where the other ones have some written work, some screenshots, this is entirely video-based. And really the goal of this is to show the functionality of your project, and hence the name functionality. And if you remember, if you go back to Criterion A, you created the success criteria based on what your client said, and B, you made a test plan to check out those success criteria, like what would you do in order to make sure that you are successful at your success criteria, and D, you're executing on that. So you're going to execute your test plan to check and see if your code works, and it hits all the success criteria that you wanted to hit. And that's really, so if we look through here, yeah, it's going to show the key parts. I think a couple key things here are that it doesn't have to be super long. Again, around like 5 to 7 minutes. And with that in mind, you should be very thoughtful about how the video that you make. And so that can include editing of your work. That can include making sure that you have a script ahead of time to highlight the points that you want to highlight. They say that you want to don't just be thorough about the functionality that you're testing. So, for example, if you are going to write a file and save it, that's really not enough. You should be able to show that you can access that file later. So, for example, if we are writing something that's going to get saved to a text file that we can access later, well, it's probably not enough to just show that it saves to a text file. You should be able to close your program, reopen it, and reopen that text file. So, kind of demonstrating that to your audience is going to be showing that level of depth within your criteria, or within your kind of, I guess, success criteria is really important. Similarly, a good thing to do here would be to test extreme values. So, for example, if your code is meant to take in someone's name, for example, or say it's meant to take in their age, right? It's supposed to take in the number 28, 28, but the user types in the word TWEN. Is your code going to be able to handle that? So, not just checking that it works in the best case scenario, but also that it works in, I don't know about the worst case scenario, but in a non-ideal situation. I think there's also a key point, and I hope that this doesn't need to be mentioned, but I have seen it in other students' work. Make sure that you're actually explaining what's happening. This should not be a silent video. This should be you verbally going through and explaining what's happening. And I really like this note, actually. I'm going to focus a little more on this document than I normally do. I like that moderators just default to watching the video and reading the documentation. So, like we said, we're not going to, while we include the full project with our submission, the moderators are probably not going to look into that in too much depth unless they need to. So, the video and reading the documentation should be enough, unless, as I said, it looks fake, or they don't quite understand what you're saying. Popping back onto this, they're going to talk a little bit about the best videos tend to walk the marker through each individual. So, going through each success criteria and documenting them working. But again, to keep in mind, keep it brief, but brief, but show your work in depth, and just don't have wasted time in your video. The other thing that Criterion D is going to assess, it's a little bit strange that it's included in D, but it's really more of a part of more B and C, and it's the extensibility of your project. And so what that doesn't mean is how can you change or modify or improve. It means if someone's going to come back, whenever we write software, if we write successful software, we might not be the ones that are going to have to update it next. So we want to make sure that our code is readable and that all of our program structure is well defined, and we have proper variable names, comments where it's appropriate, and so those kind of things are going to let your product be kind of updated by somebody else. So that's really this part, extensibility, and it happens more through, it's assessed in here, but it pops up more in Criterion B and C. And so to support that, we can see that the moderator comment back here. It's evidenced by the detailed design in Criterion B, detailed description of the creation process in Criterion C. So having a properly structured and annotated code listed in the appendix. It's more about, and I just think this, I don't know if I need to read it, but it's how well documented the solution is. It's not the same as suggesting improvements. And so we can find that supported down here to the extensibility, in our checklist here. So code is going to be provided in the appendix, be well structured, formatted, annotated. Yeah, so just